Hello everyone and welcome back again. Now in this lesson we're going to continue carrying on with our application. And before I get into finishing this navigation drawer part, because we're going to need to create a navigation drawer for our app, especially when we get past the login activity. So if you have here, so once we pass the login activity, we're going to get greeted with this DLMS home where we can start giving the user the ability to choose between one of the four features, which are, for example, checking out the announcement, the materials, and checking out for an exam, checking out the success rate, and all these stuff, and all these features. So we're going to need to create this navigation drawer, which is basically a menu that when the user clicks and swipes from the left side, you will get this menu and you can check out which one do you like. And as well as whenever we choose one of these menus, this activity will be updated with the corresponding choice. We're going to utilize fragments here. Now, before I can start talking about fragments, we need to talk first about the activity itself. What is an activity and what is its life cycle? Now, an activity is the current window, or the current screen that you are working with, and the activity is not managed by you. It's managed by the Android operating system. So the activity goes actually from one of its stages in its life cycle to another, based on what the operating system is doing. So the operating system just throws the activity from one of the life cycle stages to another, and all what you have to do as a programmer is to ensure that that your application shouldn't crash or shouldn't behave in a weird way based on your implementation for these methods. Now, what I'm talking about here, let me show you. If you are actually wondering what I'm talking about here, let me show you the activity lifecycle. Now there's the one which is an Android developer website, which has exactly the same one. However, I like this kind of hand-drawn kind of flow there. And it's quite really simple, and it's really like, how can I say, minimalistic. So it's kind of easier to read. So your activity, when your application launches, let's say, or whenever any activity just launches, it passes through several functions. The actual program calls several functions. The first one, when the activity just freshly started, it gets called, the onCreate gets called. And if you look here in our Android application, we are handling, in fact, the onCreate all the time. So whenever the onCreate is called, we start right there, the parsing of the XML starts happening. And after parsing the XML, we start actually getting from our activity the controls or the views which we have to interact with. So the view control, the button view, we get it in there, and we can start handling the on-click listener, for example, for it. So we can start whenever the user clicks on a button in that activity, something actually happens. So onCreate, what it does is construct. Is the part where the application starts, like the computer bootstrapping. It starts to read the XML file and applies the styles, applies everything as it should be, and everything has to happen really, really fast, and it actually shows and it renders on the screen. Then afterwards, the onStart is getting called, and onStart right here is called when the application is actually visible. So onCreate here, the application is still invisible. But once the onStart is called, the application is actually visible. All right? And then the onResume is being called, which people like to call it, it's also visible, and people like to call it, or also the documentation likes to call it the running state. So basically, once this stage 3 or this third function is being called, right now you are in fact in the running state. Now we have another state, which is the paused state. And the paused state, whenever the application goes, or whenever the activity, goes from the running to the pause state, the function called onPause is being called. the on pause is being called, or the application gets into, or the activity, excuse me, gets into the gets to the paused stage, or that stage in its life cycle, when the application is partially hidden by another application, by another activity. All right. So, for example, if you have an activity, and you have let's say, while you are actually interacting with the application, and all of a sudden a dialog pops up. Now, if the dialog pops out on your application, what happens is the activity behind it gets dimmed, or like it gets actually not usable. It cannot be used, and you have to interact to dismiss the dialog, whether you are agreeing with the dialog or not, and then you can get back to the activity. And this part where the this dialog popping out, it actually puts your activity into that paused state. All right. Now, when you are actually dismissing that activity, you get the onResume gets called back again, and then you are getting back to the running state. All right. So basically, people call this like that. The running state is where the activity is completely visible. You are actually interacting with it. You are working with it. The pause state is the application or the activity is partially visible, not completely visible, but partially visible. And now you go to the stop state, where your activity is in fact hidden. All right. But so basically, your activity is like whenever, for example, we go from the login screen to this DLMS home screen, this login screen actually gets stopped. So it gets paused, and then it gets to the stop state. Now, whenever we get back to that login screen, if the application hasn't, or if the operating system haven't killed that activity yet, we get on restart, then on start, then on resume. And then we are back again to the running state. Now, as you can see here are the dashed lines, which says that which actually this is like this is not possible. This won't happen to activities that are running, or to applications that are running on Honeycomb and later. So prior to Honeycomb, if your activity is in the pause state, there is a possibility that it could get actually killed. That the operating system will completely destroy the activity from the memory and dispose it completely to free some how can I say, resources for your application, for other applications to take in place. So that's why I'm telling you the activity life cycle itself is completely managed by the operating system. So that's why the operating system, for example, when it needs some resources, just simply says, you haven't referred to that activity for a really long time. You most probably don't need it for now. So I will just simply take out that activity from the memory and then activate something else on the operating system. So it actually starts, so you will not feel the lag and you don't feel the system is kind of cluttered and heavy. All right. The application, according to documentation, according to the Android documentation, the stopped state, in that state, the activity is completely hidden. And it's not visible to the user. And it is considered to be in the background. So while it's actually stopped, the activity instance and all its state information, such as member variables, is retained, but it cannot execute any code. This is a quote from I quoted right now a text from the Android documentation. So this is a very important thing to know. All right, so there's also one more thing. I would like actually to show you as well how to send an object, in fact, or in fact a data from one activity to another. So we need to do that because we would like, for example, once we log in, we're going to have in fact an object of a student that we're going to utilize it in order to make the queries based on the student's data. So once we log in, we're going to get that whole student object, and then we're going to throw it to the next activity, and then the next activity will be populated with the data of that student. All right. So let's see how we are actually going to go about that. Now, as you can see here on create, it has this bundle saved instance state. Now here you can actually utilize this in many, many ways. For example, you can use it, we can actually use it to receive data from other activities. You can use it, for example, to save, to get some data from the user. For example, if the user have, for example, filled in some stuff, and you can, and for example, the activity was closed, for example, this is one of the parts where sometimes your saved instance state is actually being there, where some of the data is actually being saved there. So you can use it in many, many other ways. How are we going to utilize it in order to retrieve data? Actually, we're going to utilize it here to retrieve the data from the other activity from here, right? Now, the only thing, the easiest way to solve this problem is just simply say intent dot, and here you have something which is called put extra. Now, for us, we can actually send any primitive data type. So you get booleans, array of booleans, bundle value, byte, character, which is char, character sequence, which is a string in our case, double value, float value, integers. And then we get to something very interesting, which is parcelable, an array of parcelables, an array of serializables, and so on and so forth. Now, we're going to talk about actually parcelable later, or serializable. Both of them are actually quite almost the same. What happens here is your data, when it's being sent, it has to be converted into some sort of a stream of bytes, and being shoot over the memory, like over the system bus. You can think of it like that, like the express highway, and then you receive it from the other side of the world, or the other side of the activity. Like you are, for example, I'm sending a student object. You cannot actually say put extra and then you say the string name, which is the key, and then the value, which is going to be the student object. You cannot actually put it that way because it will not actually work. You have to convert your student. You have to make your student, that student object, sorry, whatever object you are sending over to another activity, it has to implement the or the parcelable interface. Now, implementing that parcelable interface, we're going to see later. However, most of all the primitive data types, which you can see here, like the character sequence and so on and so forth, they actually can be shoot over this express highway, which I'm telling you about. I mean, hypothetically, of course. All right. So right here, I'm going to send in. You're going to have to specify the key, because you can, in fact, put inside that intent couple of things. And you have to, when you're receiving from the other side, you have to say, okay, if I'm looking for that record, and every record has this key for it, has this name for it. So here I'm going to have, for example, test, for example. I'll put that as a test, and this is the key for it. So when I will seek for it, I will seek for it there. On the other side, I will say, give me that extras with the title intent. Give me what is inside it. And here, I'm going to put in the data which I would like to send. For example, this is a test, or this is data from another activity, right? And then semicolon right there, and that's it. And you actually start the activity. Now your job on the other side of the world over here, you have to make sure that your bundle save state instance is not null. First of all, it's like a sanity. We call it actually in programming, we usually call it the sanity check. So are making sure that your application is you are not monitoring something which is null. And then we can actually start extracting data from there. Alrighty, so let's implement this. So I will have to create. Oh, actually, in fact, I was thinking about something else. Sorry about that. In fact, we will not use this guy. But here's the thing. We're going to use it in a different way. So I'm going to create an intent. Intent equals to get intent dot. Actually, you know what? I will just simply say, I will just make this as a bundle, and I will control space. Okay, this is already important. Get it into get extra. And right here, I'm going to have to specify that this is, I have to actually make sure that this is my, string, that key which I'm seeking for, like this one. So I'm going to copy that guy, paste it over here. So this is the key which I'm seeking for. Right now, this is the content. This is the, I will call this the extras. Now, since I have the extras in my hand, right now what I could do is, let me see here. Maybe I need to give this text view a name so we can display this right away. ID equals to add ID. And then here I could say LBL, which is a text view, or yeah, I'll just call it as a label. So LBL message, for example. And right here I'm going to have, I'm just going to say var, or actually not var, I actually got used to C# over here. Text view, LBL message equals to, I have to just cast it over here, find view by ID, and right here the ID dot, and then LBL message, and I could say LBL message dot set text. And right here I'm just gonna put here the extras dot to string for now. I could actually yeah, I'll just leave it there, or maybe there is no need to, because anyway I'm getting actually an actual string from there. Let me see. Oh well, okay, let's start running this. Oh, actually, since I don't have this Genymotion is running here, let me show you another way of running Genymotion. Instead of running it right from your Windows directly, you can, in fact, there is a plugin which I hope I will in fact find. And let me minimize this a little bit. And if you go to plugins, you can browse for repositories. All right, so you have, I think plugins is somewhere right there in your settings. Browse for repositories. And right here we can have, I think, Genymotion. Let me see Motion. There you go. Genymotion, install the plugin. And yes, sir, please. Oh, I have to restart Android Studio. So let me pause the video until Android Studio just restarts. So there we go. I actually have restarted Android Studio over here. It took some time. So actually, for those who are watching, I think it's blazing fast. And as you can see, I got a new icon over here, which is, as you can see, the pop-up says Genymotion Device Manager. So if I click on that, I have actually to set the path first to Genymotion. So I'm going to have to do that. So I'm going to go to my, I hope it's actually, let me find it here. What was the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, not here. So again, there, Genymobile, there you go. So I'll grab this Genymotion, and then I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to hit Apply and OK. And let me see if I can press that. Let's see if I hope that I don't have to get to the one more upper in the root. And there we go. As you can see here, we got the device manager. And the coolest thing about it is that we can start actually creating even new ones. However, I would like to start that one right away. So here's a nice tip or a nice trick here. You can actually start Genymotion right from the Android Studio, which is a good thing to have. So I'm going to hit start. And I'm even going to close this. And here's actually my device starting. So I'm going to pause the video until the device actually gets started. All right. And now our Android actually started. Scale this out. So we got that. And now I'm gonna actually start our application over here. Get some time. Sorry about that, honestly. I really thought about actually I had in mind something else regarding this object, but later on this is the easiest way of working with these stuff, with like getting the extras and everything. I really had another intention for this guy, but this is going to be for a later, probably a later lesson. Oh, let me see the output for details. I have got an error somewhere. Alrighty, so it says no suitable method found for set text bundle. So I'm gonna have to say dot. Actually, I put this as a string over there. Let's see if I can run this again. I'm gonna pause the video until the message pops out. Oh, one more error actually. Cannot be converted to a string. I thought that I actually get the bundle. Oh, hang on a sec. Get. There you go. Sorry about that. Get string extra. So I have to specify the data type. I thought that I actually got the get. Yeah, as you can see here, you get the parseable as well, which you can cast it to a student object. And for example, if we had a student object that implements the parseable interface, get parseable extra with the name, of course, with the string name, which is the key. Right now, we can actually cast it back. So here, get string extra. And right now we can start working. Sorry about that. Alrighty, and I'm gonna hit OK here. Waiting for our applications to appear and sign in. And as you can see here, this is the data from another activity. So we actually got it working. Good. Now, let's go ahead and move further. For working with, we need to work with our application over here. We need to start creating this. This navigation drawer. So let me take this out. We don't need actually this one for now. We don't need to send anything. And I'm gonna keep this check login with the server. We can actually prepare this user interface first, and then we're gonna move ahead and work with the business logic and the server side, the services as well for this application later on, once we finish preparing the user interface. Now, a navigation drawer, if you actually haven't seen one, is this little guy. So as you can see here, when you press on a button over here, you get this navigation drawer appearing for you, and then you can start selecting whatever item you have, and then your application starts responding accordingly. So for example, if I'm selecting something, it has to display to me that something which I have selected, or the data appropriate regarding whatever choice I had. And navigation drawer is quite good for applications like you have huge amount of choices that the application could actually display. For example, if you look at the Google Play Store, you have a lot of applications under a lot of categories, and they have to be organized somehow in some way. That but displaying them in tabs. I mean, all these categories in tabs would be quite exhausting. So that's why they are put all of them in that navigation drawer. So these I'm talking about these categories. Now, not all of this is in a navigation drawer, but you can see, for example, in the as well Google Play Store, you could in fact start browsing tabs, which are not more than 3 or actually not more than 4 or 5 tabs, not this 15 or 20 tabs of these categories and subcategories. So for us, for our application, for our own purposes, we need just only about 1, 2, 3, 4 or something like that. Now, how are we going to actually approach this? First, if you look at this menu, this is in fact a list view. And that list view contains two objects. It contains, in fact, like every item in that list view contain an item. Actually, that list view contains an array or list of items, and every item contains two objects. One is the text, another one is the icon. Now, for us, we're going to have one more third over here, and this is going to be used for announcements. So, unread announcements, we're going to display the number right there, number of unread announcements, like in the Google Gmail app, Gmail or any email app. All right. So we're gonna have to construct first that item. All right. We're gonna have to create the business logic behind it. So we're gonna create a class which is called navigation drawer item, and we're gonna specify. We're gonna have three properties for it: the icon, the text, and maybe the possible other text, and another Boolean variable to specify whether this part will be included or not, because not all the items are going to have it. Only just one of them is going to have it. So we're going to have this Boolean variable thing. Now, yeah. So basically, icon. Yeah. So this is basically it. And then we're going to create one more layout, and every layout that's actually one single list item layout. And that layout will represent how these items are going to be laid out into our activity, into that list view. Whether the icon is going to be the left or to the right, whether this text is going to be up or down, or bolded, or black, or white, so on and so forth. We're going to specify how it's going to look like when it's pressed, how it's not going to look like when it's unpressed, or how it's going to look like when it's unpressed, and so on and so forth. We're going to as well. After specifying the look and feel for that list item, we're going to have to create an adapter. And that adapter will generate a list of items, these items. We're going to generate it. And then we're going to actually push that into the adapter. And then we will hook the adapter with that list item. And then the list item will be automatically populated with our list according to the layout which we have actually specified. It's a little bit of labor work, but it's very rewarding when you start decoupling your classes and having this. We're going to introduce to you this view model layer where we can start working with this. Working with our UI, because you have to really decouple your XML and your actual code behind. So we're going to see how we're going to approach that. All right, so I'm going to create another package, and I'm going to call it ba.fit.dlms client. Instead of .app, it's going to be .viewModel. And this will describe how our view model is going to be. So, as you can see here, immediately Android Studio have broken our application. It saw that I have one package that has sub-packages, so it immediately broke off that part and just put it here under, like a tree. So it will be easier for us as developers to see it. However, nothing has been broken or anything inside your folder. Inside your folder's map. Let me rename this, rename, because I would like to put the M as capital probably, so it will be much better. I'm going to refactor that. Right-click, add a new class. I'm going to call this navigation drawer item. And it's going to be a simple class. I'm going to hit OK. Now, this navigation drawer item, let me just erase that, is quite simple. As I already have specified, this is going to be string label, or actually the title, or the title of the item, whatever you would like to call it. So I'm going to call it label for now. And it's actually private. Semicolon here. Private int icon. Now, hang on a sec. Let me just put this as a small letters following this Java kind of coding style. Private Boolean, and right now, actually we're gonna have first string. Let me just put that right away here. String. I'm gonna call this as a counter. Counter. And that counter is the number of the announcements which I told you about, like at the edge, like number of unread announcements. Private Boolean, and right here I'm gonna have is counter visible, semicolon. Now we have to create a constructor for that one, and we're gonna have to have two constructors. One constructor that takes full, everything full of these, and another constructor which takes only two of these, like the label and the icon, and that's it, because it's going to make it a lot easier for us not to set everything there. We need as well to put the setters and getters for this guy. Now here's an Android Studio, a shortcut key for you. If you hit Alt Insert, you will get again Alt Insert, you will get a menu over here. And right now you can say generate. It says, you can see this menu appears here. It says up here, and it says generate getters and setters. And here it says what getters and setters you would like to have. So with a keyboard right away, Shift down, 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 down arrow, by the way. So I'm holding the Shift key, and I hold just down, and then I'm just going to hit Enter, and it generated for me all the getters and setters. I'm just going to put my cursor over here again. Alt Insert, and right here I'm going to create a constructor that takes everyone, right? And I'm going to have another constructor that takes the label and the icon only. And okay, all right. So as you can see here, I've just generated class really fast, and it's really cool. I mean, from Android Studio to include that. I think Eclipse, I know that Eclipse has it already, but it's actually quite cool that it's already available here. All right, so we have this navigation drawer item. Now we need to specify the layout for it. So I'm going to go over here in the layout, click New, Layout Resource File, and I'm going to put this as relative layout. And right here I'm going to call this LST underscore item underscore unpressed, because we need to specify when the item is actually not pressed, because when you press an item, it has to be highlighted so the user knows that they actually selected it. So I'm going to have here, I'm going to set here OK, and wait for it. Oh, actually this is in the drawable. Sorry about that. Let me just delete this again. Let me delete it right away. Instead of generating a view, instead of renaming it, and so on and so forth. Sorry about that. Actually, it's in the drawable. I forgot. Relative layout, and here I'm going to call this LST underscore item, and actually I'm going to call this nav underscore LST item, because I'm going to have other lists, so it will be easier for me to locate. Alrighty, so I'm going to head here. As you can see here, I'm getting a full activity over here. I mean, a full thing. However, we're gonna have to specify other stuff so we can make it look, it will not look like a list item. It will be here. It's going to be completely stretched. However, it's going to be squeezed down whenever we start having, whenever we start filling this item, filling this list view with the items there. All right. Okay, now before I go ahead, as I already said, we're going to actually work with the database, and we're going to get a list of stuff, and we're going to use the same idea, by the way. We're going to have adapters, and we're going to have list items, and we're going to have to create layouts for them, and then hook up everything. Now, I'm going to show you, this is the hard-coded way of working with such list items. And it's hard-coded because we don't need to... how can I put this? We don't need to actually change it over time. We don't need to fill it based on database input. So we just we're going to hard code it for now. So I'm going to have here inside the values, I would like to hard code a couple of things here. Inside the strings, I'm going to specify an array of stuff. So here I'm going to have string array. Sorry about that. Array. I'm going to give this a name. So I'm going to call this nav underscore drawer underscore strings. All right. And I'm going to close it here. I'm going to hit enter. And right now I'm going to put the items on the array. It's very important to keep the order, by the way, of this array. So I'm going to go over here and say item. And here I'm actually going to keep it in Bosnian. So Aura VST. And I'm going to copy this, paste it 1, 2, 3. Instead of having a voice over and over again, I'm going to have here. Let's hope that I don't misspell anything. And here. I'm going to actually keep it this small, like so. And finally, checking out your success rate. And I put here a comment. So I'm going to put here a comment. And I'm going to call this is the navigation drawer labels over here. Labels, I think. Now, over here, I'm going to show you as well, we're going to have the icons, by the way, which I don't have them yet. But I'm going to show you where I'm going to get them. So navigation drawer icons and string array. And right here I'm going to have nav underscore drawer underscore icons. And inside here I'm going to start referring to my drawables. I'm going to refer to these icons. Now I have actually went over the internet and I've searched for icons. I got them actually for free. I'm going to show you the website in a second here. And it's called flaticon.com. And right there, I have actually got the icons. I actually went to the, well, there are a lot of shapes. There are a lot of categories. I actually went to education. I think it's somewhere here. There we go. And I actually chosen some of these icons, and there they are. And as you can see here, I've downloaded them as PSD files from there, and then in Photoshop I just simply resized them to 512 times 512, I think. Let me see the property of that guy. Details. There you go, 512 by 512. And then there is but of course, when you would like to generate, you need to generate the icons according to these resolutions. So it's actually kind of really, how can I say, troublesome to create this by hand. So there's a very interesting website. It's called the Android Studio the Android Asset Studio. And here you can go inside, you can actually generate icons over here. So I said generic icons. And then here I actually have uploaded the image. So right now I browse for my image. And then once I browse for the image, I just simply say, all right, let me grab Android Studio Assets. And here I'm going to grab the, let's say, OIVS over here. And at the end, you get the icon appearing over there. And immediately it shows you all the resolutions. And you can download all this as a zip file, right? And everything is just there. And even the name has been changed for you. So I've actually renamed these files. So I named, if you have noticed, I named them like so. And the icon generator immediately, resizes the file, does all the stuff, and does even go through the trouble and renaming them. And you can even start having different colors, foreground colors, and so on and so forth. So for example, right now I have it as blue. I could have it as black, as I already have stated. There, I actually made them black. I didn't move ahead in there. And then, of course, you can control, for example, the size of them, the optical icon, the padding, how much padding they have, Right now I put 0. Let me put a little bit more there. If you'd like to trim, do not trim, and so on and so forth. You get a lot of icons that you can generate from here, a lot of choices. And of course, feel free to explore it. It's a really great tool over here. It's awesome. And you can see the source code on GitHub as well. All right, so I chosen the icons from here. I actually processed each one of them. I just uploaded each one of them, and it was really click, click, click. Once I actually made the settings there, I just simply download the zip file, browse for the image, get the image, download the zip file, and so on and so forth. And at the end, I got all these zip files. All right, I have went ahead and extracted them inside resources, and there we go. Now, the easiest thing to do this, I actually have went, let me see over here, inside my documents, Android Studio project, and this client, app, source, resource, and right here, all my drawables are. As you can see here are my XML files, here are my icon launchers, and all these stuff. Now, what I could do is just simply grab the, for example, this is for the materials. I'll hit Control V, and it actually places them all inside, right? And I will go ahead in the back. Obviously, well, let me go ahead and copy it like that. It will not do any harm. As you can see, I get more of these. And let me go ahead inside, grab all this. And oopsie, Control V, and just to check, okay, it's there. And Control A, Control C, and Control V. Oopsie, not here. Control V. So there we go. So all right, I got all of these 4 icons. And if I go back to Android Studio, expand those, I get all of them, right? So it's actually fast and nifty. Great. So over here, I have to remember, I have to keep this as, how can I put this? It has to be in the same order, because I'm going to grab the icons based on the same order as the text. This is the point where I'm telling you, so that's why it's really hard-coded. So let me hit, I cannot hit Control Space, can I? All right, let me put this by hand then. Oh, I can do that as well. Okay, drawable. I actually put at, see, here we go. Oh. So here I put here at drawable, and it immediately hit Control Space and it completes it, Control Space again. And here I'm going to have IC, and obviously is the first one, so I'm going to grab this guy. And let me copy these guys, paste them over there. And instead of this guy, I'm going to have, the next one is IC tutorial. And here I'm going to have IC underscore Ria. And here I'm going to have IC underscore, there we go. All right. So we've got all our resources at our hands right now. So let's go ahead and start specifying. Let me see where we are. The navigation drawer for actually the navigation drawer item over here. So we're gonna have, as I said already, we're gonna have 3 things. First one is the icon, which is going to be an image view, and the next 2 ones are in fact a text view. All right, so we're going to have this counter as a text view, and we have this another text view, which is going to be the actual label. All right, and it was going to go from the left to the right. Also, one more thing I would like actually to add into my strings over here, which in fact the part of the Android UI actually seeks for it, so I'm going to leave it there. And it's called the description, the content description. So name equals to, let me just put there, and I call description underscore list underscore item underscore icon over here. And I'm just going to close this with item icon. So I'm going to leave it like that, because once we're going to supply Hang on a sec, navigation list. Once we're going to supply our icon information to the image view, we're going to have to supply this description, or we're going to supply it anyway. Right here, I'm going to create an image view. Opa, I have to create it with a capital I, image view. And here it asks me for the width, and I'm going to keep the width really small. So I'm going to put it like 25 dp. Now, the height, however, I'm going to just simply say wrap content. So we'll take whatever height you need. Just please make sure that you don't exceed that width. Now, first thing first, we need to name this. We need to name this control. We need to name this view. So here I'm going to have the add ID icon, right? And of course, as you can see here, we have to have it real all low. Actually, I got this semicolon by mistake. And now we need to align that image view. We need first to push it down and align it to the left side. So here I'm going to have the Android column layout underscore parent, align parent left is going to be equal to true. And right here we're going to have the Android column layout underscore margin left. So we're going to give a little bit more of a push so the icon will not be completely close to the edge of the screen. So we're going to give it 12 dp. And moving on, the margin as well from the right underscore margin right. And we're going to give it as well 12 dp. So we're going to add more space between the icon and the label. So Android colon. And right here, we're going to specify the content description. And here I'm going to have to grab it from add string slash nav. Hang on a second. How did I name this? I actually forgot. Yeah, description list. All right, we are going to paste it right there. Right. So moving on. So the content description we've added. We need right now to specify what is the source. And right here I'm going to have add drawable. And I'm going to grab, for example, I'm going to grab by default the IC OIVST for now. Later on, we're going to actually change this directly in our application. Now, as you can see here, actually, programmatically, we can actually generate these stuff. We just simply put something default there, so it's going to be there for now. And as you can see here, you get this icon for OIVST. And since this is the first, I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to have to push it, really center it down. So I'm going to have to say Android layout underscore center vertical equals to true. And right now, my icon is centered. Right? Now imagine this. This whole thing from top to bottom is in fact your list, actually without these bars. All right. So from top to bottom, this is the actual item. However, when we start filling it in, it's actually going to get squeezed down to that size later. Okay. And we're going to specify that height later on. Now we are done with the image. Let's specify the text view. So I'm going to have here a text view. And right here, I'm going to have the width, which is going to be wrap content, and the height, I'm going to call it match parent. So I'm going to tell the text to grab as all the height it has for that. When it actually gets squeezed down, it's just going to be filling in that height. However, the width is going to be just only wrap the content around that width. So whenever the text grows, the size of the view actually grows along with it and pushes other views on the sides if it actually needs to. Alrighty, so first of all we need to name it. Of course, this is a very important step. So Android colon ID control space, and right here I'm going to name it. I'm going to call this title, and we go ahead, and right now we have to specify where is that guy is located. And since we are in the relative layout, right now I have to describe everything relative to other views. So I'm going to put here layout underscore to right of. So this text view is going to be to the right of the ID icon. So right now our text view, it has to be somewhere Let me see if I can set down some text so you guys see it. Text equals to there you go. You see it? There you see. And as you can see here, I said match parent the height. So as you can see here, it grabs the whole height of the whole activity. And look at this. It actually put on the side, on the right side of that icon. If I hit Control X right now, Control S, it takes the same space or the same position as the icon. So we need to put this in order to push that text right beside it. And as you can see here, I got a little bit more space over here. And this is happening because of the margin right, and that space over there because of the margin left. Okay? Now, since I don't need to put the text there, I'll just put it there for demonstration purpose. Oh, you know what? I'll just leave it for now until we finish so you can see all the interaction is happening there. Okay. Now, here are a couple of things which are kind of interesting you're going to see right now. I'm going to first, before I actually show these interesting things, I'm going to put the text color to be black, add color black, and here I'm going to have Android gravity, and the gravity is actually corresponding to the content itself. So the actual thing is going to span from the whole top to the bottom. However, if I say center, right now the text has been centered, not the actual control, because the control spans from the top to the bottom, but I got the text is being centered within that control. So this is what gravity is for, right? It refers to the content. And now next I'm going to have here Android padding right. I'm going to put here 40TP. So I'm going to give a whole lot space for whatever counter it comes, right? And right now we need to specify a couple of things. First of all, Android colon, and right here I'm going to have minimum height. And this describes the minimum height of that text. And here is the interesting part. You can actually start accessing with a question mark, Android, and then list or list. Where did I go? Why did I lose everything? There you go. Android colon list preferred and item height small. And right here I'm referring to a built-in Android theme style. All right. Now, you shouldn't rely too much on it because sometimes you could get into a trouble when Android starts changing these styles based on newer operating system. And you could end up with your application behaving in a weirder way on newer operating systems, right? If something happens to be deprecated. However, this is one of the things which we can safely use because right now it depends on the size of the device and depending on how small or large it is. Android will start adjusting the text size or the height or the minimum height to a certain level that can be not jeopardizing the actual experience too much. Right, moving on. So we have this OIC done. Actually, one more property to set, which is going to be the text appearance. I'm going to recall as well another, actually I'm going to call this, I'm going to recall one of the built-in styles as well, text appearance list item small. I'm going to actually grab that as well. All right. So just ensuring that these list items actually, that this text actually behaves normally according to all other circumstances. All right, so here I'm going to have another text view. I have to specify. This is really interesting here. Wrap content. I mean, how Android Studio is actually quite case sensitive when it comes to the IntelliSense part, and wrap content as well. So I'm going to wrap content because it's going to be really small. It's like 2 numbers or 2-digit kind of tops. I mean, you're gonna have 2 digits. You cannot have 100 unread announcements. I mean, I don't know how long you are as a student inactive, but basically, I think it's not that very possible. But anyway, I mean, if it's even possible, the UI will be readjusting itself as well. So anyway, let me rename this. I'm gonna call this Android ID equals to add ID. I'm gonna call this counter. And I need really to call them that way because I'm gonna recall them from code and I'm gonna inflate these information directly. And inflation is like inflating the XML, is like inserting the data inside the XML in real time. And we're gonna talk about that probably right now, breaking the 1 hour mark quite soon. So I'm gonna actually finish this layout and then we're gonna move on maybe in another video finishing this item. And we have Android background. We can actually set the background later, I think. I have to, well, you know what? Let me set the background right away. I'm going to create a drawable resource file, and it's not a selector here. It's going to be a shape, and right there I'm going to have, well, I'm going to call this LST underscore counter underscore shape, let's say. I'm going to hit OK. And right here, so I can set the background right away. I'm going to call this, I'm going to put here solid. And the Android color is going to be add color / let it be cornflower blue for now. Maybe not the best for maybe some of your tastes. However, I think it will do. Corners. We're going to need to specify corners. I would like to make it really round. Radius, I'm going to put this 5 dp. And the reason I put that, I actually experimented with the number a little bit. So 5 dp, I think, will be quite fine. And now we're back here. I'm going to have to set this Android background at drawable. Let me just take this out. And I'm going to put here LST counter shape. And right now, I think somewhere it should appear. No, it's not there yet. However, I think we need to add more information just for us to see that text over there. So let me carry on with specifying the styles for it. So first of all, you know what? Let me see how it will look like actually. Text is going to equal to let me like 10. There it is. Actually, I couldn't actually. How could I couldn't find it? Let me hit Control X, Control S. Yeah, because it didn't have any content, so it's really difficult to see. And I think I'm gonna leave it. I need to change the color of the text because it's really gonna be difficult to see as well. So anyway, we're gonna fill that out later. I'm gonna leave this text in so you can actually see what's happening when we start moving things around. Now, first of all, we need to say layout to right of, because it's actually, again, it's right to the right of the ID of the title. There you go, the title or the label itself. And as you can see here, it's just like shifted right there. Now we're gonna need to throw it really to the side. So I'm gonna have here another margin. I'm gonna put here on Android layout underscore margin to the right. I'm gonna put here a DP. So I'm gonna, if the list item starts to appear, once it appears right there in the middle, this thing or this counter will not be completely stick to the edge. I'm just gonna give it just a little bit of space so it just, you know, it doesn't all like feel like really on the edge. So everything like fits nice and neat. Now, of course, we need to center it vertically. Layout underscore center. Okay, center vertical equals to true. And right now, it's actually centered vertically. And the padding, and then we need to align it to the right. Android layout underscore align parent to the right. I'm going to put this to true. Right now it's completely, oopsie, actually it's like, really stretched to the edge for a very weird reason. Oh well, let's first add one more padding here. Android, I'm going to actually correct that in a second here. Android padding completely, not with only partial ones. So padding is going to be, I'm going to add here 5 dp. So I'm going to add a little bit more space between the content and the edges here, so it will not feel like really confined. I'm just giving the eye to breathe here, some space for the eye to breathe. And right here, I'm going to have the Android text color. Let me put this at color white. So it's a little bit, stands out a little bit. Now let me see here. What's wrong with this guy? Let me see if I, actually I cannot comment it that way, of course. Sorry. Control X. There we go. We are much better that way. For now, I'm going to actually put it back if needed. But we will see. So let me get back to here. So I got the width and height specified. I got the background. I got the alignment, center it vertically, and putting the margins. And align it to the right as well. All right, so we are actually done with this, done with the item. Now, since we broke right now we really broke the 1 hour mark, I'm going to stop the video right here. And in the next lesson, I'm going to start working on the navigation drawer itself, right? And I think it's going to be a little bit more faster next time because here I went really slow, explaining every single step. However, with the navigation item drawer, I think it's going to be really, really faster. So, actually, the navigation drawer, we don't need to specify it here. We're going to specify it actually in the DLMS home activity right there. But we're gonna, well, that's actually going to be the talk of the next lesson. So see you in the next lesson.